Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Ubud, Bali. I am going to embark upon a live video of my talks rather than live streaming due to a number of reasons. I can record any time in the day that I want. I also overcome the terrible difficulty here, although I understand it, of radically intermittent Wi-Fi that breaks out all the time. And there's a lot of ambient noise here in Ubud, and especially in my compound where I live. So I am going to give live recording a go and post it the following day on my Facebook and YouTube channels and various other podcast networks. So good morning to you from Ubud. June 7th, and you'll probably see this on June 8th, 2022. Today's talk in this new series, in a time of overwhelm, now what? Put it mildly. I don't know anyone who is in any way aware of their own denial and intimacy that hasn't been deeply impacted, if not severely traumatized, by this pandemic, whether it be organic or orchestrated or a little bit of both, that has galvanized the authoritarian genome in a lot of men, not just men. And now we are experiencing here on the second or third day post anniversary of Tiananmen Square, a time when the CCP, China's militant, fascist, dictatorial government, came down militarily, severely, and crushed the working class people of their own country, not just in the square in Tiananmen, but outside the square as well. And over the last, how many decades since that horror, that the world has gotten infinitely more authoritarian, CCP-like. Even democracies today, to state the obvious, are undergoing what looks to be a calculated totalitarian takeover. So we're in dangerous times. And so today's talk is safeguarding personal peace. I use the word safeguarding in a very specific way, and I'd like to open up to the meaning of how I use that here in the earliest stages of this talk. Safeguarding implies a degree of insight, a wisdom, a discernment to know what is being safeguarded and how to go about safeguarding effectively. Obviously, there are many people who take bondage for freedom, who think that war is peace, to think that slavery is liberty, that mistake certain states of consciousness for their absolute obvious opposite. So the word safeguarding here must be intimately understood on the most intrinsic feeling capacity of the human mind and heart. I call this mindful intelligence. We may just simply use the term feeling with wisdom and discernment, the efficacy, the functionality, the characteristic of the state of mind. I'm a stickler for this concept, states of consciousness. A is an A, a B is a B, a C is a C, a D is a D. Love is love, and it's an infinite variety, but I would think the more pure forms of love that actually seek the elevation of the other through a consensual intimacy. There's a wisdom, a protocol, a way to understand the cognitive intelligence of that love so that it can be replicated, it can be developed, rather than the more toxic forms of love that people often confused with attachment, fear, denigration, conflict, and hatred. So safeguarding, how do I know that I'm safeguarding peace. Obviously, through a lot of trial and error, we learn about the sanctity of our own conscience. We begin to treasure more and more our own valued self-identity, rooted in loyalty to high-value qualities of being. Dignity comes to mind, self-love, self-compassion, mindful restraint. All these constituents of consciousness could be considered attributes of peace. I'll get into that in a second. But safeguarding that which is in your own best interest. That could be called meditation. I'm not speaking about meditation here with eyes closed or seeking personal peace through calm and stillness and conscious regulation of brain and biology and breathing. Those are particularly distinct forms of peace. But I'm speaking more here in the plain field of what I call world dharma, which is a concept of speaking about beingness, consciousness, and biological presence together in context. I'm in context in this environment. You're in the context in your environment. And there's a tremendous, intimate, inseparable overlap called atmospheric environmental planet Earth in an ecosystem of consciousness in context to 8 billion selves, morphed into human or Homo sapien beings, animals, trees, birds, insects, photons, neutrinos, deities, angels, dimensions. We live in hyper context, string theory. World Dharma is understanding the application of a human life in context, in doing all that one can to understand how to live in that context with adventure, with intimacy, with loyalty to values, with peace, and how to safeguard that peace not only in self, but in the context of other than self. Freedom requires responsibility. Peace requires responsibility. So safeguarding, mindfully safeguarding personal peace. Let me close here at this last half. Peace, calm, tranquility, even when those qualities may be shaken or brittle. Grace, as my friend Daw San Suu Kyi has spoken about many times, that courage is grace renewed repeatedly in the face of harsh, unremitting pressure. I have interviewed many dozens of former prisoners of conscience, primarily in the country of Myanmar or Burma, and many of them have talked to me about what peace meant to them behind the iron bar. Although we were incarcerated, our freedom, my freedom, was not the torturer's to take. I would not give up my safeguarding of my personal dignity, my personal freedom, and my personal peace and dignity, even in the most harsh conditions, as torturous gulags all throughout the country of Burma. Safeguarding peace. What is the opposite of peace? Unrest, disease, complexity, conflict, upset, worry, stress, trauma, recognized, unrecognized, anxiety, disturbances of the psyche and the soul based on inconsistencies of ethics and values, a world that's gone mad and our innocence isn't able to catch up with the staggering level of suffering, and that gap between the reality of our own emerging identity and values in relationship to the context of an Anthropocene, a Holocaust, a war, being a refugee on a train, escaping the Ukraine, Russian conflict, or in Burma, or in Syria, or in Afghanistan, a young girl being raped in Zimbabwe at this very moment, the inconsistency of her own innocent upbringing with the violation of patriarchy and embeddedness in the sick psyche of a man or a group of men if it was a gang rape. This particular incredible outrages the soul of an innocent young girl ad nauseum across the planet throughout all generations, probably from now until time immemorial. We'll be dealing with this incredible conflict called the absence of peace within the human psyche, within the mind of animals and birds and deities. Safeguarding peace. I'm not just speaking about holding off with a security camel or Quaaludes or Valium or high doses or low doses of ketamine or psychedelics or whatever one does to help them cope. But I'm speaking about the raw interface of consciousness in context with one's own consciousness. That to me is the raw, beautiful, challenging edge of inner beingness and transformational wisdom. And there is the best hope for me personally of safeguarding my own sense of personal peace. What are the qualities that you call peaceful? I would tend to encourage you to write them down, to study them, to memorize them on both a literary level as well as beginning to engage them on a felt mindfulness level, letting them become experientially realized to the point we become progressively more and more fluent in the felt reality of these qualities of personal identity called personal peace. For me, what are some of the qualities? Self-love. What does that feel like? To situate within one's own presence, within one's own body, within one's own mind, at the senses, hour by hour, day by day, throughout the day, the week, the month, the year. Knowing how to restrain from aberrant states of consciousness, safeguarding the mind, restraining the mind, being disciplined with the mind, state of mind called patience, determination, resolve, peace, dignity alone. What is dignity? How do you feel dignity within one's own mind and body? Is it the way that we stand, the way that we have a relaxed inner posture of self-respect? How do we feel self-respect? Restraining from that which creates upset and evolving those states of mind and those thoughts and those patterns of speech that elevate the status of our own sense of worth. Kindness, grace, compassion, the fortitude of the soul to stay in intimate proximity to complexity and engage that complexity with a high regard of our humanness, but also equally our tenacity to engage the edge with fight, with resolve, with struggle, with tenderness, with the embrace of a mother to a child, and more and less, whatever is required to safeguard these qualities of peace. Tranquility, like a still pond. The absence of regret, the absence of worry. Knowing how to disengage from stress, anxiety, and worry as quickly as possible upon their arising. Therein lies the skill of a Dhamma savant, a meditator. I would call her or him a consciousness yogi, a Dharma artist who's willing to employ timeless qualities of consciousness upon the fabric of felt reality within consciousness at the confluence of the six sense doors. Consciousness is received at the eye, the ear, the nose, the mouth and the tongue, the body door and the sixth sense called the mind door, or even the nuministic element to each of the six sense doors, the trans-sensual, hyper-intuitive, if not psychic lens to each of the sense doors, and how to navigate and safeguard each of the different dimensions of the senses within the realm of consciousness, safeguarding dimensionality within one's own being. I'll speak more about the adventure of consciousness in days to come, but right now, how to safeguard personal peace. Know the qualities of consciousness on the palette of one's own inner beingness. To quote one of my late great teachers, the Venerable Sayadaw U Pandita of Burma. He likened state of mind, SOMs, state of consciousness, SOCs, to colors within consciousness. Safeguarding peace is equal, if not synonymous, with the beautification of the mind. Flowers, it's said, and we know, open, by and large, based upon light, minerals, nutrition, soil, this environmental miracle called the context of an environment, and the photonic display of light. The flower opens, and intrinsically, through the process of opening, there's the naturalness of the fragrance. The Dhamma life, the world Dharma life, is the flowering of beingness, safeguarding the beauty of consciousness and elevating the status of our own beautification so that fragrance, the fragrance of love, the fragrance of peace, the fragrance of compassion, the fragrance of caring, the fragrance of the benevolent archetypal mother that embraces even complexity, archetypal conflict in her heart and hands. We begin to see that our lives can be managed, can be orchestrated, can be evolved, can be developed if we self-responsibly understand safeguarding peace as the vocation of our spiritual, human, our global, planetary, citizen lives. We take responsibility for consciousness and the flowering of consciousness through the lens of peace. If only all human beings, especially those in leadership, would vow in their role as leaders to safeguard peace and learn the high, simple art where there is conflict, where there is struggle. Learn to talk with yourself in a respectful, dignified, powerful, honest way. Have the courage to have a soul-to-soul with yourself as frequently as possible. Disengage from the complexities and elevate the status of the good, the true, and the beautiful. To re-communicate what I've been saying, safeguarding, mindfully understanding the role of mindfulness. It sees clearly the reality of something. It has the intelligence to engage it and sees it either as beneficial or unbeneficial. It's a thought, it's speech, or state of mind. If it's unbeneficial, the intelligence sees release, hands wide open. Why bother suffering when you can have an open heart that's peaceful through the dignity and the mindfulness of a relaxed state of mind? Leave the hot coal of fear, of greed, of delusion, of habit, of conditioning. Easier said than done. Give it a go. It's amazing how you can transform my life and overcome what feels to be insurmountable odds of addiction. I've had my share, you've had your share. Through simply a beginning process to employ beautiful states of mind, and I refuse to participate in the habit of the addiction. I refuse to participate in the cigarette, the nicotine, the cocaine. I refuse to participate in the injection, the needle, the fentanyl. I refuse to participate in the collusion with violence. I refuse. It's unbeneficial. And from this day onward, I'm going to do my very best to no longer pretend that it's a valuable conditioning to continue. I release my hold on you, fear. I want to learn to love you, not live in the river of toxicity. I want to go against the flow. I want to be beautiful. I want to live in peace. Peaceful states of mind. Authenticity. The ability of the human heart to align with character and loyalty, tenderness, honesty, playfulness, eroticism, consensual presence, fortitude, receptivity, mutual intimacy if it's two that are dancing and playing, the erotification of shared space if it's two or more that's playing in the shared space, patience, kindness, restraint, absolutely risk-taking adventure. Yes, you're going to cry. Yes, you're going to hurt. But yes, I took a risk. Risk-taking takes courage to explore and to pick ourselves back up, right? Know these states of mind, these SOMs. Get a notebook out. Wherever you can find a notebook, get your notebook out and develop a World Dharma literacy notebook. What are my SOMs, my SOCs? Authenticity, integrity, loyalty. What are my colors on the palette of consciousness? Authenticity, loyalty, integrity, determination, patience. The ability not just to contract in the face of conflict, but to develop a stamina that's willing to look and feel. We may not have the answer yet, but I want to learn from you. I want to learn to grow with you. Talking to yourself. I'm not going to run this time. I'm going to stay steadfast. Khanti, patience. Self-love. Love, the elevation of other over one's own need, greed, fear. Compassion. Spontaneity. Reciprocity. Dexterity of mind. Mindfulness, that's able to discern the phenomenology of something that's happening at the moment and determine what it is from what it isn't. The ability to know reality from projection, delusion and illusion from the luminosity of a trans holographic phenomenology, something that's flesh-based truth. In consciousness. You know this to be true. I know this to be true. I know this to be true about my being, about the mind, about my sensibilities. Thank you very much. I don't want to participate. No. I want to play in your garden. Do you want to play with me in mine and share the garden? Yes. And let's be discerning about how long and how, and in the ways and means that we erotify that garden of intimate shared touch. The poetry and the play, all at that very fine dance. I mean, as I conclude today, safeguarding personal peace, it took a long time to come out of the configuration pretty much of overcoming unrecognized self-denigrating conflict. And then I arose into the playful arena the garden, the meadow, where I felt that I could create amazing heart art, if you will, that gave me the joy of creative splendor, of authenticity, of insight, of shared wisdom. You can see that we're in context here and having to integrate beautiful people being beautiful in their own way. Receptivity, cooperation, ways to live in the adventure of this strange ambient madness called life. So I'm going to conclude today. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being a part of these live streams and podcasts. I am announcing a very special event here in Bali. We've been bequeathed with a magnificent, deep nature temple on the side of the volcano a few hours from here for a retreat. Really, it's about silence and feeling. I'll lead it, I'll guide it. But for 15 people, we already have 5 that have committed. I want to keep it really small and intimate. Beautiful vegetarian food, beautiful silence. Yes, it'll be rustic, but it's a beautiful ancient temple. If you wish to participate, message me and just tell me why. Who are you? How do we know each other? We don't have to know each other. Just tell me, why do you feel that it's important for you to be in this retreat together for this very sacred period of time? And I'm very open-hearted about who comes. No partials, only want people who want to stay for the entire 7 days. July 25th to the 31st, I'm going to probably not even announce it other than on these live streams, maybe a few little posts on Instagram and on Facebook and various other places. Very excited about that in my own humble way, although it's 40 days away. It's a lot of time from now, and I plan to be living, God willing, day by day, hour by hour, to the best of my ability, within the context that we all know. It's a strange time. So that's high on my agenda. Please feel free to reach out. You're invited. I have a couple of books that have just come out, one with my beloved friend, the Reverend Bodhi B., called Facing Death. It was a book that we put together based upon a series of dialogues that we had when I was on Maui and beyond. And it's not what you think. It's so rad. I think everything that I've ever thought and felt is found in that 130-page book. It's on Amazon worldwide, Barnes & Noble. Check out Bodhi's Death Store in Haiku, Maui. Support his vision of a green memorial on Mother Maui. It's not just a place to be buried, a school, an art center, a vision for all of humankind. And the book explains it, but it also is my coming out process, and I think for Bodhi as well, where I reveal a lot of things about how I live that I normally wouldn't even tell my therapist. And what is there to lose at this point? So that book, Facing Death, and then a children's book that I wrote called, it's a collaborative process, called Tonight I Met a Deva, an Angel of Love. And it's both literal, it's a true story, and it's also a wish for my own life. I love the angel in life, to learn from, to commune with, to do what I call the erotification of Ubuntu, this shared mutuality of consent. How I discover myself is often through the feminine, both inside and outside. And I am high into this thing called rebirthing into the future. Not so much of post-biological death alone, but I'm taking the concept of meditation and yoga and transformation out of the context of being present alone. It's far too small a place for me to hang out. And I'm taking it into the nuministic, the adventure of time traveling, and I'm calling it rebirthing. And so the retreat will be about the process of making rebirthing a way of living, that we're navigating time and space together, a relationship that is different than here and now, a polyamory that's transcendental, if you will, a solo, mutual polyamory that's multidimensional, if you will. And so from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you as much as you can tune in at 9 a.m. every day, God willing, from Ubud. I'll be posting these videos with the good help of Jeffrey Hellman, my longtime tech support in New York, who magnificently brings my tech life, my present through digital media to the world and to each other and to me. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life, and thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Okay. Have a beautiful day.